Hey, looks like everyone is here, so I'll go ahead and get started. I'm very sorry for this last minute change, but Linda Freeman, the Executive Director of the Sentencing Commission, is unable to attend today due to a family emergency. So we'll just get started without her. I know that what she had wanted to say, and please others chime in as you think of things, was that this grant has gotten bigger and more competitive over time. So a big congratulations to everyone who received a grant. We're really excited to have you on board and join in this big effort to work on public safety with us. Is there anything else, you guys, that I should be saying at this point?
I'd make a few notes just on housekeeping. So first of all, these are all one-year grants that you have currently. The Sentencing Commission is going to be requesting additional funding for next year, as well as bill language that would allow us to extend grants as necessary. But at the moment, the funds do expire at the end of the fiscal year, the end of June 2025. And so we want to strongly urge you to spend your funds throughout this fiscal year. Spend them as though they will turn into a pumpkin at the end of the fiscal year, because they do currently. And we have no guarantee that the funds will be extended or that we'll receive additional funds for next year. And on a related note, we also want to emphasize that timeliness is of the utmost importance, both with submitting your required reports and invoices, which we'll cover here, and also with spending the funding that you have been awarded. The Sentencing Commission's Grants Committee has instructed us that if timeliness is becoming a concern with a grant, that we should and will reduce or rescind funding as appropriate. That's not something that we want to do. That's not something that the Grants Committee wants us to do. We all want your grant projects to be successful and make the difference in your communities that we all believe that they can. And so I just want to emphasize that. Please submit everything in a timely manner. Do your best to get your projects off the ground and running, and we will do our best to help you and support you in that in any way that we can. And then the only other housekeeping note that I want to make is that we are planning to do a spring convening, as we've done the last 2 years, a meeting of all Crime Reduction Grant Act recipients and CJCC representatives here in Albuquerque, as well as I think other criminal justice system stakeholders, as we've done the last 2 years. And so that it will be in the spring. We have not set a date yet, but we will let you know as soon as we have that. And all grant projects will be required to send a representative to that convening. In past years, we have covered the cost of accommodations, and I believe that would be the case this year as well. So that's all that I have for housekeeping there. Thank you all for taking time out of your day to be here, and for putting up with our slight delay there. We had some technical difficulties as well.
Okay, unless anyone else has anything to add to that, Kiri, I think you can get started with your presentation.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna pull up my PowerPoint here. I guess we should all introduce ourselves, actually. I'm Kiri Thiel. I'm a staff attorney at the Sentencing Commission. Jamie, you want to go ahead?
Sure. I'm Jamie Cook, and I'm representing the finance team today. The other members of the finance team are Jeremy Seymour and Amanda Armstrong.
And I'm Nancy Shane. I'm the Director of Research with the Sentencing Commission.
All right. Thank you all. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to be running through this fairly quickly. And I do want to just let you all know that we will be sending out the slides as well as some of the other materials that I'm going to reference and a recording of this presentation as well. That should all be going out probably by the end of this week. And so we are going to be going over a lot of information, but don't feel like you need to be taking notes. And we will be pausing at the end for questions as well. So I'm going to go ahead and begin. So first of all, like I said, we do get a lot of grant applications. We have a lot of grants. Because of that, we have divided up. Excuse me. We've divided up our grant projects among 3 grant liaisons at the Sentencing Commission. Sorry, everyone, I had a cold over the weekend. Nancy, do you want to talk about grant liaisons for a second? Sorry.
Sure. So the liaisons are the people with whom you will be working most closely with as you have questions or things that you need to address. But it's also true that every one of us, Jamie, Linda, myself, and Curie, we're all available here for you. Some of us specialize in finance and like that, and we'll be able to answer your questions about that. But your grant liaison is your first point of contact.
Thanks, Nancy. So I'm going to go over our quarterly reports and how to use the Apply system. Apply is our grant management software that we use to oversee all of the grants and to collect the quarterly reports as well as our monthly invoices. So this is a link to the Apply website. This is our hub, like I said, for our applications and materials, as well as our invoices and reporting. We will send this all out via email. So once you log into the Apply site, this is what you'll see. This is your dashboard. And you can navigate back to this page at any time by clicking on My Applications at the top of the page. Once you see your program here, you can click on this button that says Start or Continue to open your grant and see your assigned tasks. Once you open your grant, this is where you will access your grant materials and your assigned tasks. I've circled a few things here that you can see. You have your assigned tasks. Here, this is where you'll have your monthly invoice tasks as well as the quarterly reports as they are due. You can also see down below that you have your previous tasks. And these are all of your previous month's invoices as well as your application materials, and you can open those and reference them if you need to. Also, I want to note here on the side that you have your collaborators and your owner of the grant account will be listed here. And this is where you can add a collaborator if you need to, which we'll talk about next. So collaborators can view, edit, and complete tasks in Apply. They can basically do anything that needs to be done except for submitting tasks. They cannot submit anything in Apply. This is just a limitation of Apply. It's not something that we can do anything about. And we do ask that you add everyone who's going to be working on your project as a collaborator in Apply if you want them to receive any notices that we send out. We do use Apply to send out reminders about monthly invoices as well as announcements. And so you really do want everyone to be added as a collaborator. To add them as a collaborator, you just click on that Add Collaborator button right there. You'll get a pop-up that allows you to enter their email address, determine what type of access they should have, whether they are viewing and editing or viewing only. And then you can send that invitation. Collaborators need to accept that email invitation in order to be added to the grant in Apply. And then again, I just want to emphasize that only the owner of a grant in Apply can submit materials. That submit button will always appear grayed out and it will be non-functional for collaborators. So the next question that you will need to ask yourself is who should be the owner of your grant and apply? And we ultimately leave that up to you, but we do strongly recommend that you make your fiscal contact the owner of the grant, since they will be responsible for submitting the monthly invoices. We have run into problems, or I guess grantees have run into problems in the past when they have one person completing the monthly invoices, and then another person who has to log in and submit those because they're the owner of the grant. And that can create delays in submitting, which ultimately translate to late reimbursements from our side. So just in order to get your submittals in a timely manner, we do strongly recommend that you make your fiscal contact the owner of the grant. And if you're currently thinking that you are going to need to change the owner of your grant and apply, you can do that really quickly and easily in apply. If you add the person as a collaborator, if they are already a collaborator on your grant, you can click on the three little dots next to their name. You'll see a menu pop up that has make owner as an option. You click on that, and that's all you need to do. It does happen instantaneously. There's no approval needed. You can change the owner as needed. It's entirely up to you. And then one other point on collaborators and owners of the account, speaking of making changes, if over the course of your grant, you have new people come on board or other people leaving and the responsibility for tasks shifting, we do ask that you make those changes and apply, add collaborators as you need to. Because again, we do send out notices, reminders, announcements, etc. through apply. And so those new people who come on board are not going to get those unless you add them as a collaborator. So that brings me to monthly invoices, which are required for all grants. The invoice for each month is due on the 15th day of the following month or the first business day following the 15th. So that means that for July, the current month, that invoice is going to be due on Thursday, August 15th. For the following month, for your August invoice, because the 15th falls on a Sunday, that invoice will be due on Monday, September 16th. We do ask that you don't rely on reminders and instead add the monthly invoice date to your calendar. We do try to send out reminders every month as a courtesy. But for reasons that aren't important to go into, we can't really set that up to be automated through apply without creating other issues. And so we do have to do that manually. And so we do ask that you take responsibility for remembering that monthly invoice date and not relying on our reminders. We also ask that you submit an invoice even if you had no expenses that month. That would be a $0 reimbursement request. That helps us make sure that our records are complete and helps us to see that the grant, what progress the grant is making, and that all expenses, if they are occurring, are being invoiced on time and are not going to pile up and bottleneck down the road. So the monthly invoice has 4 components in apply. These are going to be assigned tasks that you'll see in apply. You have your monthly reimbursement request form. You also have a place for uploading a cover letter that is marked as optional in apply, which means that it is not required for $0 requests. It is required for any non-$0 requests. There's also a place to upload the Excel workbook. We will supply a template for that, and that is a tool for tracking your grant expenses. And then, of course, we also ask that you upload your supporting documentation for your invoiced expenses. Your quarterly reports and updated spending plans will also be assigned as tasks with the monthly invoice in apply when they are due. So the monthly invoice cycle goes like this. So you complete your invoice and submit it, and then it goes to your grant liaison, who will review the invoice. If they approve it, so like nothing, so like all of your expenses are in line with your IGA and it looks to be complete, then your grant liaison will pass that on to our finance team. They will process the reimbursement request and let you know if they need any additional documentation. And at that point, your next monthly invoice is available in Apply. So as you can see, only 1 month is available in Apply at a time. That gives us a chance to catch and correct any errors in the submittals before they're repeated the next month. Since on your like Excel spreadsheet, your expenses from month to month will build on each other. So if you have X number of dollars spent in July, in August, then the amount that you spend in August will be added to that amount in the spreadsheet. And so if there's an error in July, that is going to cause August to be incorrect as well, unless we catch that and correct it before August is submitted. So for that reason, it is important to only submit 1 month at a time. You're only allowed to submit 1 month at a time. And so if you get behind on submitting those invoices, you cannot catch up by submitting them all at once. And it does take some time to catch up on that. We also ask that you do not email invoice materials to your grant liaison or for that matter to the finance team unless somebody has explicitly asked you to email those materials. We ask that you submit those materials only in Apply. We do have a lot of grants. We don't want anything getting lost. So next I'm going to go over the quarterly and the final/annual reporting requirements. These are set out by the statute that established the Crime Reduction Grant Act. You can see those requirements here. You are required to evaluate the process outputs, outcomes, and other performance measures of your project. You do that by filling out the quarterly report form that we will provide, and then you submit that to us quarterly. It will be available in Apply when it is due. And then also all grant programs are required to provide an annual report to the Sentencing Commission by October 1st of each year. So for a 1-year grant program, you will submit 3 quarterly reports, and then in lieu of your 4th quarterly report, you would submit a final report, and that would also take the place of the annual report. So like I said, the forms will be in Apply and will be submitted with the monthly invoice. I do have those dates here as well, which is basically what I have just gone over. So we will go on to where you can find the quarterly report. In Apply, you'll find it right here with the rest of your assigned tasks for that monthly invoice cycle. And then when you open up the quarterly report, these are the questions that you'll be asked. This is what you're going to see. So some fields in the quarterly report will be auto-filled with the information that you provided in your application or in your award follow-up information. If you need to make corrections, if something is incorrect or has changed, you have a text box there to make those corrections. And the kind of questions that we ask in the quarterly reports are pretty straightforward. I don't think this is too time consuming. We want to know how much money you have spent. We want to get a summary of your current status. We want to know about any difficulties your project has experienced and any assistance that you might need from the Sentencing Commission. We do also ask that you upload your updated spending plan. And we're going to go over the spending plan in more detail in just a few minutes. And you can also upload any other supporting documentation that you need to submit or want to submit to us. The final report form, similarly, will be available in the assigned tasks in Apply. That is due, again, by October 1st. And that is, again, set by that same statute. These are the questions that are in the final report. So you'll see, we want to know whether your project met its intended goals. and what the strengths of the project were, any difficulties you encountered, what you have learned that you will share with your CJCC, whether the funding that you requested was sufficient for your project. And if the funds were insufficient, we want to know about that and how it impacted your project. And we also want to know if you have any suggestions for us for the crime reduction grant program in the future. And then again, you also have a file upload there. And I just want to go back and point out just for a second, Nancy's going to talk more about data collection. But this final report, quarterly reports are not where you upload data to us. We understand that the data we are collecting from you contains personal identifiers and other sensitive information potentially. And so we do provide a secure method for uploading that information. So if you have any questions, you need help with anything at any point with your grant, you are always free to contact your grant liaison. You can contact all of us at nmsc@unm.edu. You can also, particularly if you have a question that needs to go to technical support, you can contact SurveyMonkey, the site that runs Apply, by clicking on the drop-down menu next to the little I on the right-hand corner, the Apply page. And you can select technical issues. You can also view their FAQ there as well. The other resource that we have available to you for help is an online help library that we have compiled at the NMSC website. You click on Crime Reduction Grants, scroll down to Resources for Grantees, and you can see the quarterly report and final report forms are there in PDF format. Those are for reference only. We do ask that you do not fill out the PDF and email it to us. It will all be in Apply and submitted through there. We also have available there a library of how-to videos for some of our most requested tasks. So things like, how do I add a collaborator? How do I edit a task that I've already completed? How do I change the owner of my grant? How do I fill out the spreadsheet? And you can find all of that there in the how-to library. And I believe that we'll also have a link to this recording there as well. And again, we'll send that out via email. So with that, I will stop for any questions. Thank you all for putting up with my voice going in and out, and I appreciate it.
Just to reiterate, there was a question in the chat. Can collaborators other than owners upload documents? And just so you guys know, that is a yes. The only one that can submit the document is the owner, but collaborators are able to edit and view.
Yeah.
Another question is the FY25 grant spending plan required to submit each month? Also, are PDF documents allowed to be uploaded as supporting documentation for the monthly requests?
So Jamie will go over all of that in a little bit more detail in her presentation in just a second, but just real quick, the spending plans, we do ask that you submit those with your first monthly invoice. So that'll be due August 15th. After that, they are only due to be updated with the quarterly reports, not with every monthly invoice. So hopefully that answered your question. If not, let me know.
Thank you.
And then if anyone else, any questions, or if you think of any, let us know. And with that, unless there are any other questions, I'm going to pass it off to Jamie.
Okay, so welcome to the orientation. Again, my name is Jamie Cook, and I am one of the finance people. I want to go over, one of the questions that was asked was if PDF files can be used. And yes, they can. It's best if you use PDF files, if you're able to create them. They're a little smaller for us to be able to upload on our end. The one that I would ask that you submit as an Excel file, of course, is the workbook that you're going to have. And Okay, so all of you can see my. Okay. So for cover letters, this is just an example that we have for the cover letters that you will be submitting along with your invoice, your monthly invoice. And so this is, you can set them up really however you'd like, but this gives all of the information that we're kind of requesting be on them. So an invoice number. So this shows, this would be the grant number right here and the month that you're requesting. Reimbursement request number is not the month of a calendar year. It is the month of the fiscal year. So if you're requesting in October, it would be number 4. If you're requesting in November, it would be number 5, and so on. If you, and down here, the business unit, if you have an account with the share system, with the Department of Finance, State Department of Finance, then that's the business unit and fund department, bud ref, class code, and revenue code that you would be using. If not, please put your remit address on there. Some of the counties don't use the share business. So we ask for your county name or the name of the grant, the county name, excuse me, and your remit address, so that we can create a PO to pay you through a voucher system through the Department of Finance and Administration. This is what the Excel workbook looks like with, so there is a year to date on there. I'm going to just bring this over real quick. This is what, can you see this? Is it showing it? The workbook?
Yes, Jamie, we can see it.
Okay. So this is the year to date, and these are the separate sheets that for each month that will be in there. And so you will be filling out sheets and the year to date. And so what I have here is screenshots captured showing what you would be submitting. So up here, the name used is your CRGA IGA name that we want here. Your NMSC assigned number, which will be the 2025-04, if that is your crime reduction grant number that has been assigned to you. Please don't put the application number there. The amount that your IGA was awarded. If further on down the line, you have an amended amount, then please, when you submit your workbooks, update that to show the amended amount for the month that the amendment is good for. So if you have an amendment signed in August, but it doesn't start until September or October, the amended amount, then please don't start using it until the month that the money is good for. So this shows your total expenditures and your remaining budget balance. So once you fill out, so this is the months that you would do. So I'm starting with July of 2024 on this one. And so what you'll put is your scope of work reference, which is pulled from your IGA. So you'll talk about what that scope of work is, the amount, $700, and the description of the expense, purchase gift cards for bus transportation. So it adds up. So you'll put each part of your statement of work in here. We don't need the entire statement of work brought in from your IGA, just the items that you're claiming against. And so it added up down here on the bottom what the monthly total was for this reimbursement. And so it will automatically jump over to the year to date when you do that. So this is showing July 24th 1105 was spent. There's the total expenditures, and this is the remaining budget balance. So this is nice for us to keep track of, and it's nice for you to keep track of what you have left to spend. Please do not change any of the formulas in these workbooks. It's tempting for Excel geniuses to do and people that are experts in Excel, but please don't, because it can cause problems for us when we're trying to download or work in these to make everything balance on the finance end. So when you're doing your reimbursement requests, this is what we would request that you put in for your documentation. The cover letter that we discussed and the reimbursement request workbook, which is a must. The cover letter you don't have to do if there's no if it's a zero reimbursement, but the workbook is a $0 reimbursement or greater. Supporting documentation for the reimbursement request. So from the vendor, if you're using an outside vendor, we need their invoice, any purchase orders, proof of payment that you paid them, a DFA warrant, a DFA voucher, which must show the payment tab of the voucher entry, checks, canceled checks that you paid them, that type of thing. Excuse me. For employees, if it is for travel, DFA vouchers, showing the payment tab, receipts, conference brochure, because most of the travel is for conference, or yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what we've seen. The hotel and airfare itinerary and receipts for the hotel and airfare. For wages, we need you to show proof of payment, a payroll register, and or canceled checks. Supporting documentation for events. An event flyer, receipts for the purchases, sign-in sheets, DFA vouchers showing that you paid for all of this documentation. For client services, sign-in sheets, when we turn them in, so you send us the sign-in sheets, when we turn them in, we will redact them, so they don't go any further than us. They don't go to DFA. Invoices, DFA vouchers showing the payment tab. Are there any questions for this part of the documentation? Okay.
Yes, so we have right now, I'm replying to the email, but this sample be shared for us to download, and we will be actually emailing these documents to you, as well as the website has additional resources for completing the documents. And then another question was, the website has the cover listed as optional. Can you please confirm this is required for each monthly reimbursement request?
No, the cover letter is not required for each monthly request if it is a $0 request. Anything over $0 will require a cover letter.
And then the other question is, I'm not familiar with DFA vouchers. Is that something I can review with the staff at NMSC? You can get with your liaison or Jamie, and we'll be able to help you one-on-one with that.
Yes. DFA vouchers are, so when we pay somebody that doesn't have a share account, a DFA voucher that we set up is with a purchase order that we create to, say, pay grants. Some people will have purchase orders with the state, and that is that's how they pay, is through a voucher system through the state. And so that's what we're asking for, is DFA vouchers from the state. So common finance hiccups that that can slow down a reimbursement request is if you enter the wrong month's receipts or invoices. That happens sometimes. You'll accidentally enter April's for May's or May's for April's or vice versa. That's fine. We'll let you know and we'll request it. Missing documentation. If you follow pretty much what was on the previous screen, there shouldn't be any missing documentation, but again, if there is, we will request it. Duplicates. We find this a lot. Some people will accidentally send, 15 pages of the same document twice. Please try not to do that. No NMSC CRGA reimbursement request workbook included. We must have that workbook. Or a documentation doesn't balance with reimbursement request. There's times when somebody only wants a partial payment because another funding source is going to pay for part of the reimbursement request. Please send us an explanation as to why you are only asking for a partial request. Or there's just been an accounting error somewhere along the line where all of the documentation is not matching up. You paid somebody $6,000, but you only show a check for $400. That type of thing. Sometimes there is transposed numbers, and that will slow it down. But we will let you know if there's an error like that and what the numbers should actually be. And if the workbook numbers don't match the request. Excessive documentation. We don't need 300 pages of why this is being paid. We basically are looking for any documentation that it makes it clear that you have paid for and received the services rendered, the anything that you bought at the store, the wages that were paid, anything that shows that happened. That is what we are looking for. We don't need everything under the sun. Be clear and concise, please. Any questions about documentation? Nothing? Okay, so now we're going to go over how to actually enter your monthly reimbursement request in Apply. So you've gotten to the point where your tasks, you've entered Apply and your tasks are showing that need to be done. First, you'll click on monthly reimbursement request. And this is where you fill in what you're requesting and what month you're requesting. So your contract or IGA number is basically that 6-digit number. Some of them may say 01.2, but those are usually for grants that have had an extension put on. So it should be like 2025 for this year, 2025-16-18, whatever. The reimbursement request number, that's again, the month that you are requesting. So if you're filling out July, that would be the first month. August would be the second month and so forth. This will automatically fill in the date as to when you are requesting the reimbursement. This is the payment information that I went over on the cover letter. The business unit, this is all of your share information. If you have a share account, this is the information so that you can get paid through this. And if not, then the agency name and agency address, where you get your mail, is what needs to go here so that we can create a purchase order in order to be able to create a voucher to pay you. A description of what this is for, if it's employee travel, purchase bus passes, whatever it was that is part of your IGA, and the amount that you are requesting for the month. When you have completed filling all of that in, you will hit the Mark as Complete button down at the bottom. So you finished that, and now we're going to go to the cover letter, and we're going to upload that. So this is where you will attach a file. This is where it's nice to have a PDF, please. And you'll click attach file. And then it will show down here that you have done that. Now you can mark as complete. You've entered it. It's marked as complete. But you find that maybe you uploaded the wrong one. So the 3 dots on the side of where it shows your document will pull up edit, preview, remove, or download if you want to download something additional to this. You can edit whatever you uploaded, preview it, or remove it completely. When you're done, mark as complete again. And now you find out that really you don't want to do that at all. So you also up here at the top of cover letter, you have 3 dots again, and you can reset your entire entry, edit it, or download something additional. So you finished with the cover letter part. Now you go on to your supporting documentation. This is where you will put in your Excel spreadsheet and any other documentation to support your reimbursement request. Again, attach a file. There it is. Mark it as complete, or edit or remove. Attach file. You click there again to add more supporting documentation. When you've entered everything that you want, and you can do all of your supporting documentation in one big PDF file if you would like. Mark it as complete. When all of your uploads, this will show that your tasks, all of your tasks are complete for your monthly reimbursement request. The submit button, when these are, when you have the 3 green check marks, the submit button will become green. Again, only the owner can do this part of it. You click on the green submit button, and that's it. You have now submitted your monthly reimbursement request. So are there any other questions regarding what is expected from the finance team for your apply entry? Okay.
Yes, there is a question.
Well, there is a question.
Budget adjustments allowed during the life of the grant in the event there are cost savings with a particular project. If so, what is the process?
Oh, I believe that would have to go through the liaisons and Kiri, and amendments would probably have to be created at that point.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So if you realize that you need to adjust your budget, first of all, we don't set a specific budget in your IGA. So we don't put numbers in there because we know that sometimes the amount is going to be somewhat fluid in that it's hard to predict exactly how much money you're going to spend on any particular aspect of your project. But if you do find that you have additional funds and you want to like add something to your project, or you had something come up that was an unexpected expenditure that you would like to add to your grant project, talk to your grant liaison. We can talk to the grant committee. We can determine whether that would be allowable. And if so, we can modify your IGA to allow those expenses. So, and also I just want to say, since I'm speaking, we know this is a ton of information, everyone, and I just want to remind you that we will be sending out these slides via email, and we also will have the recording available, and we do have the step-by-step how-to videos on our website as well.
One more question, just to clarify, for July, I have no expenses. How do I get a cover letter requirement? So if there's a $0 expense, you are not required to do a cover letter. Also in the chat, there is a resources for grant link for everyone that's here today. Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy now. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you all. I will try to get us out of here as quickly as I can.
Hey, Nancy, while you're getting that set up, I can answer the question that just popped up in the chat. So in the chat, someone is wondering how they will get the green check mark to submit next to the cover letter, since they do not need one for a $0 reimbursement request. That is the reason that the cover letter is marked as optional in Apply. Because if we had that as required in Apply, you wouldn't be able to submit your monthly invoice without that cover letter. But since it is marked as optional in Apply, you only need to upload that if you have a non-$0 request.
Thank you, Carrie.
Okay, is everybody seeing the right opening screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will try to get us out of here in just a few minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the spending plans. Again, these are due initially in August and again quarterly thereafter. These are not a high stakes document. It's mainly for your own planning, but also for us to anticipate any amendments that might be required to add funding to your grant, or more commonly to, if you are not able to spend all of your funding, recover funds so that we can make those available to others. So what you see on this page is just the two parts of the spending plan. On the left, you have the cover sheet. On the right, you have a detailed sheet that refers to your expected expenditures during each of the 3 months of the quarter. Everything that's in gray is automatically filled in, and everything that's in white is what you fill in. And this is not in the same kind of detail as what you will use in your reimbursement requests. Again, it's mainly just for you and your own planning. So I'll just show you a couple of screens. This is actually a detail page for the quarter. And you would just put in, say you're spending your money on salaries, supplies, and gift cards. Then you can just write in, sort of your overall expected expenses. Those will total for you at the bottom of the page, and then also transfer back to the summary page. And that way you can sort of see if you're on track for spending money as you so planned. Okay, so there's a lot more detail. There's a video that goes through this in more detail, so I won't spend any more time on the spending plan now, but do let us know if after you view the video, if there's still any confusion. Okay, now I want to talk to you about the data sharing component of your grant. Like Kiri said, this is something that's a requirement for the grant, and we the Sentencing Commission are required to use the information that you send us to write an annual report. So this is the one part of the grant that we don't use Apply for. As Kiri said, it's very sensitive information, and Apply is not really designed for that. So we use the UNM SharePoint system, and we won't burden you with that information now because this is all information that is due at the conclusion of your grant. So we'll fill you in at that time. But just to make sure that you are collecting the right information during your grant, if you are working with justice-involved beneficiaries directly, we will need that information to be able to identify those individuals. And so it's very specific information about their demographics, their birth, date of birth, their first and last name, the date that they started the service, and a few other details about them. And just so you have an idea of what we do with that information. So we cover projects from across the sort of criminal justice timeline, including, sort of things that are intended for prevention all the way through reentry programs. And of course, we have different expectations about what those outcomes are. Nevertheless, we still do look at basically 4 outcomes for justice-involved individuals, no matter where your project lands. Those have to do with court compliance for the reference case or the case that got them into your program, if there was one, as well as in future cases. We look at incarceration for the current case, because some programs are designed to reduce incarceration. And we also do look at recidivism in future cases. And here's just an example from our first report of some analysis that we did for programs related to pretrial clients, as well as clients in treatment courts, and their change in warrants, or in other words, their court compliance. So in this particular case, we see a big effect of those programs. Of course, other grants are designed to hire and retain particular staff. And so if your grant falls into that category, the information that we request are first and last names and the employee identification number for those individuals. We also will need their start date and their length of employment so that we can track how long they stay in that position, hopefully for a long time. And finally, some programs include or involve staff training. And for those kinds of programs, all we're asking for are the names and agencies of the folks who attend the training that you are coordinating or presenting. Okay, so there's some other evaluation that you might be doing on your own, either to complete requirements for another funder or just for your own interest. And we're very interested in receiving that information as well, so that we can incorporate that into our report. For instance, many programs have a pre and post evaluation of the trainings that they do, and they like to share that, good information with us, and we would definitely love to see that. Some grants, not every grant, but some like to show us on the ground what it's like to perform, what their program looks like from their own perspective. And we certainly appreciate that opportunity to visit your grant and do a site visit and kind of perhaps meet with some of your clients, or at least see what your case managers and other staff are doing. So if that's something that you would like to do, please let us know. We really do appreciate seeing things from the ground level. And finally, this is just a view of the website. I know that Angelica, thank you so much, has put this link in the chat, and several people have mentioned the resources that are available, including the videos in how to do these various submissions, and also the report templates. So I'll stop sharing now and open this up to questions.
I think we're good on the questions.
Okay, yeah, I always feel like my part is the easy part and nobody ever has any questions for me. But with that, I will let you all go. And oh, here's a question. Well,
great job at explaining everything. Thank you, Jamie.
Everyone, I hope we all hope you had a wonderful day. Angelica, thanks again for doing the tech for us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.